Good morning, Christ Temple Family Church. As always, it's an honor to be in front of y'all today physically and virtually. How y'all doing? Hope y'all relaxed and everything, ready to receive the word. I'm excited. I'm very happy because this is the last time I will have to travel from Kansas City to be here, because I am starting the moving process this week. It came by so fast. Came by. Shout out to my wife. She's currently back home packing. And, they said quarantine put a lot of marriages to the test. I think moving puts marriages to the test. The moving process. So pray for us as we try to work together on this thing. She has her own way of doing things, and I have my own way of packing things. But we're gonna make it work. She's in charge. That's why she's there packing up right now. But I'm excited to move. As stressful as it is, I am excited to move back because of the reason I'm moving back, and that gives me so much comfort in knowing that I'm listening to God's voice, and also my wife is in agreement. So that's a big deal right there. So really appreciative of that. I'm gonna miss Kansas City. I know Kansas City is pretty live right now, so if you watch from Kansas City Chiefs is going to the Super Bowl for 2 years in a row. So who y'all got for Super Bowl 55? You could put in the chat. I know some people just don't really care for Tom Brady. Personally, I don't like to bet against Tom Brady because for some reason he always find a way. And somebody like Pastor Nick, you wrong. Somehow the refs always find a way when it comes to Tom Brady. I don't know. I just know I have a feeling it's going to be a repeat. I feel like the way it's going. And now that I'm in St. Louis, I can't say Kansas City Chiefs. I got to say Missouri Chiefs. I just have to stick it like that. Yes. Today's subject is coming from the book of Daniel. Thank you, Bishop, for reading the text for those. So it's Daniel chapter 1, verses 1 through 8. And this is actually the first passage I ever preached from for the first annual youth day, 18 years old, August 2009. And I preached from this text. And the beautiful thing about the Bible, what I love about the Bible, and what makes the Bible so cool, makes the Bible so dope in my eyes, is that you can read the same text and extract something different based on a season of life you're in. It's like when you're constantly reading God's word is constantly speaking to you. And what God is saying to your heart is based on a season of life you're in. So when I was 18, going off to college, about to enter my freshman year at University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, an HBCU, where I got kicked out because I did not know how to play spades. So, I don't know. No shame in my game. But as I was going off to college, what stood out to me reading this text was that how Daniel and his friends put God first at such a young age and in a different place. How they were taken away from their home, they were entering a strange land, and they were able to uphold integrity. And so here I am going off to school, being away from my family, my church home, my friends. And my thing was I wanted to continue showing integrity even though I was away from my home. So that stood out to me when I first read it. And then when I circled back 12 years later, 30 years old, less hair, more muscle. What stood out to me this time was Daniel's determination. How determined Daniel was to overcome his situation. How determined Daniel was to show integrity in the midst of temptation, in the midst of adversity, away from his mom or his dad, his family. He was determined to do what was right. He was determined to show faithfulness to God. No, away from his home, he was determined. Daniel's determination, really, he had a determined spirit. And I want to ask you, do you have a determined spirit? When life gets hard, Do you want to keep moving forward? When life gets tough, when life is breaking you down, how determined are you to overcome what you're going through? How determined are you? And today my subject is called a sprinkle of determination. Just a sprinkle of determination. Because in this Christian life, in walking with God, newsflash, you are going to have some hard times. You're going to have some tough times. You're going to have trials. You're going to have tribulations. And when you feel yourself giving up, when you feel yourself wanting to tap out, when you feel yourself just weak and just want to let go of everything in life, just sprinkle a little bit of determination on your situation and put in your heart develop a determined spirit to, no matter what you're going through, push forward. No matter what you're dealing with, push forward. Be determined to not give up. Be determined to trust that God is on your side no matter what you're going through. A divorce, a miscarriage, you lost your job, to overcome what you're going through. Just sprinkle a little bit of determination on your situation and watch God do his thing. Don't give up so easily. Some of us are so soft spiritually. You've been in church for 30 years and still have yet to develop a determined spirit to push through. Do you not know life is hard? You're not going to have an easy life. If you grow in your relationship with God, when you pursue God, you're going to realize that life is not easy. Amen. No matter how nice of a person you are, no matter how much good you do in the world, people are going to be mean. Life is just going to happen. And so when you're faced with situations like that, where you're stripped away from your home, when you're led down a path and you're like, how did I get to this point? And you just feel like giving up on life. Just sprinkle a little bit of determination in your spirit so you can keep moving forward, knowing that on the other side is greatness. On the other side, God is going to get you through what you're going through. He didn't bring you this far to leave you. He didn't put you in this situation just for you to walk out on you. He is still walking with you. Just sprinkle a little bit of determination. And pay attention to the word sprinkle. Like, that's key. Because when I say sprinkle, that means you have to be careful and be mindful of how much you put in your spirit. Just as you can't pour. Like, I remember I was making noodles one day, and I put black pepper in it. This is before I knew how much sodium ramen noodles just had by itself. And I used to hook it up real good, hot dogs and cheese, and I was putting black pepper. I opened up the wrong end of I opened up the pour end on accident, and I just started just dumping away, thinking I'm sprinkling, but I'm actually pouring, and so much black pepper in that bowl of noodles. And I hate wasting food, so I powered through and I ate it. It was gross. I was sneezing. I was doing a lot of sneezing and coughing, but I was determined to finish that meal. But too much of that black pepper ruined the taste. And too much of determination will actually ruin you. Pouring too much determination into your spirit will have you ignoring God's voice, will have you following your will instead of God's will. See, when you're too determined on the wrong thing, it's going to lead for you being stressed out, wondering why are things not working out the way I want it to work out. Yeah. So just do a spring. Don't add too much. When you're too determined, you try to force open doors that God is trying to close. When you're too determined in life, you will see yourself 40 years old still trying to make it in a rap game. When you're too determined, I remember I was very determined to be a college basketball player. For 2 years, I was trying. You couldn't say I wasn't good. You couldn't say that I wasn't determined. The doors just was not opening for me. And I had to think to myself, I said, you know what? Do I want to be that guy? Do I want to be that guy catching myself in my late 20s, still trying to make that dream happen? And I had to be mindful to not let my determination to do what I wanted to do have me drown out what God is wanting me to do. Too much determination You won't hear when God is trying to get you to pivot. When God is trying to get you to do something else. Like, hey, this may not be for you. So try to listen to God and what he's trying to steer you into. So just a sprinkle of determination. Don't pour. Just monitor how much determination you put into your spirit. A little dab would do you. Just a little dab. When you have some desires in your life and you want some determination, just a little dab. Because don't put too much, because you want to still hear what God is trying to get. Sometimes he just have you do things temporarily so you can learn something from. Every hobby is not a career. Some stuff is just a hobby. Yeah. That's it. You might be determined to be an entrepreneur. Maybe that's not for you. And you sacrificing your family trying to pursue something that God is not having you to do. So use that time. Just a little dab of determination in your spirit. So when life gets tough, you won't get... See, determination is a very powerful personal character trait. I love determination. Determination means to achieve something in spite of. To persevere through challenges. To persevere through resistance. Because believe me, we're all going to have resistance. When we have goals, when we have visions, when we have dreams, it's going to come with some resistance. And we need determination to get through that resistance. You pursuing something in spite of. In spite of. You're determined to do something in spite of. Some of us are determined to graduate from college, get a degree, in spite of financial hardships. Some of us are determined to pass a class you've been struggling in spite of you just being a slow learner. If it requires you to go to tutoring, go to tutoring. Show that determined. Don't give up because the class is difficult. If you need extra help, you need extra help. I consider myself a very smart dude, but Calculus 3 was kicking my butt. But I was determined to pass it, so I had to go to tutoring. So determination means to pursue, to go forward in spite of. Do you have that drive to go after what you want in spite of resistance? Do you have that drive to not allow the enemy to deter you away from that vision God blessed you with? Do you have that drive? Just a sprinkle of determination. See, a lot of us have desires. We have desires, but we don't have the determination to get what we desire. Yeah. You have desire. Some of us desire to be a good wife, but do you have the determination to be a good wife? Some of us desire being a good father, but do you have the determination to be a good father? You have the desire to make the sports team, the football team, basketball team, cheerleading squad, but do you have the determination? Do you have the drive? Do you have determination to make that happen? See, desire to me is just all talk. What you desire, a lot of people say what they desire. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. But do you have the determination to go forward? Yeah. Sprinkle a little bit of determination on your desires and watch some good things happen. You have that desire. So you need to capitalize. Some of us desire so many things. I want a job, but they don't have the determination to go out there and get a job. The job market is tough right now. You can't give up after 2 companies said no. Keep going. Y'all remember the movie Pursuit of Happiness? Look at that with Will Smith. Great movie about keep going. No matter who is telling you, if God has blessed you with a vision, when God has gave his promise to you, that doesn't mean it's just going to happen without any interference. There's going to be interference, but it requires for us to have a little bit of determination to not allow that no, to not allow the enemy to speak negatively to our spirit and stop us from going forward. A sprinkle of determination. Desire. See, one of my favorite movies is Django. I love watching Django. It's a 3-hour. You like that movie? I love it. Me and my brother watched it back to back. It's 3 hours long. That was 6 hours of our lives watching Django. And in one of the scenes when Django was talking to Calvin Candy, Leonardo's character, said to Jamie Foxx, to Django, he said, "Gentlemen, you had my curiosity, and now you got my attention." And that line stood out to me. See, and it made me think, like, when people are talking to me, their desires get my curiosity, but their determination gets my attention. Their desires, it makes me interested in what they have to say, but when I start seeing their determination, that's when it really gets my attention. Even if you're single and you're looking for a mate, don't fall in love with the desires. Fall in love with that determination. Because the desires is just all talk. You'll be 10 years in that relationship like, well, I thought they wanted this, but they ain't doing nothing about it. You fell in love with the desires and not the determination. So your desires get people's curiosity, but that determination, that drive, because that means when I see your determination, that means if I'm working with you, if I'm a partner with you, when things get tough, you're not going to back out. When things get hard, when things are not going the way that you thought it should go, you wouldn't easily just give up. See, some of us just easily give up on things because they don't have that determination. They don't have that drive. They don't have that dog to keep going when things are not working out the way they thought it would work out. So if you're dealing with a situation where you just feel like it's just tough and it's not working and you don't know how you're going to move forward, just a sprinkle of determination. Imagine what can happen if you just be a little more determined in your life to go after what God has blessed you with. God will not lie to you. He has promises for you. So why back out? When you back out, that means you're not believing in God. That means like you don't believe God is going to see you through this situation. So don't check out so easily. Look at Daniel's situation. Daniel was determined to be faithful to God in spite of the situation. Daniel was determined to be faithful to God in spite of a situation, guess what, that he didn't put himself in. See, sometimes in life, we're faced with situations that just happen. We didn't put ourselves in that situation. It just happened. Life just happened. That divorce, it just happened. Sometimes life will lead you down a path. Daniel didn't ask to be taken away from his home. You didn't ask to be laid off from your job. You didn't ask for your fiance to pass. You didn't ask for your kids to walk out on you. You didn't ask. It just happened. And it's important to know when that happens, just be determined to be faithful in God and that God is going to see you through no matter what situation you're facing, what situation you're dealing with. This is a prime example that sometimes life just do not work out the way you thought it should work out. But that didn't stop Daniel from being determined to be faithful to God in his situation. This young man was captured and taken to a foreign place. And believe it or not, some of us have been captured mentally and been taken to a foreign place. Something has captured our thoughts, captured our minds, and it has taken us to a place where we no longer recognize ourselves. Some of us are in captivity of greed, captivity of jealousy. And you're like, how did I get here? But we serve a God that no matter what strange place you're in, what foreign place you're in, it's not foreign to God. What place you're in life, God can easily step in. And God He already stepped. He's with you. You're not alone. That's right. So it may be foreign to you, but it ain't foreign to God. God knows exactly where you at. But how determined are you to be faithful to Him in spite of your situation? He was captured and still determined to be faithful to God. This situation is just crazy. Because not only was he captured, but they changed his name. They changed. Look, you already captured me. Don't try to change my name. But they changed his name. Daniel chapter 1, verse 6 through 7 said, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were four of the young men chosen, all from the tribe of Judah. And the chief of staff renamed them with these Babylonian names. So they stripped them away from their home and they gave them Babylonian names. Daniel was called Belteshazzar. Hananiah was called Shadrach. Mishael, Meshach, Azariah, Abednego. They changed their name. They are renamed by what held them captive. They are renamed by their situation. Because sometimes your situation will rename you in the eyes of other people. So sometimes you might be known as Nick. You might be known as Cornell. And then based on your situation, you're now known, the alcoholic. Oh, the person that can't get a job. Oh, the person that's on their fifth marriage. You start being known by your situation. Look at the lady with the issue of blood. We don't even know her real name. Her situation pretty much named her. And we know her as the lady with the issue of blood. Sometimes in life, your situation. So even though your situation renamed you in the eyes of other people, you are still a child of God. It doesn't change how God view you. It may change how other people view you, but it doesn't change how God view you. So even though they gave Daniel a Babylonian name, it didn't change who Daniel was in his heart. It didn't change his core. Because that was greater than what they were trying to give him. His relationship with God was greater than a name change that they tried to give him, but that they did give him. So yeah, they may give him a Babylonian name, but it didn't take his heart. Because a name change don't mean anything if you don't change your heart. Don't change anything. Yeah, you got married, your last name changed, but if you didn't change your heart, you're still the same person. Because it's all about changing the heart. So although they changed his name, they didn't change his heart and his love of God. He had determination to not allow that name change to affect his relationship with God. So his situation, he was captured, taken to a foreign place. They changed his name. And then it gets worse. The goal was for the king to train them in the language and literature of the Babylon. They were to be trained for 3 years and then they would enter the royal service. So they were going to get trained. They were going to get trained to learn the ways of Babylon. But here's the thing. The king wanted to train them, not knowing that they were already trained. The king, because one of the things I learned in life, that it's hard to undo training. When somebody been trained in a certain way, it's hard to undo training. I learned that because we adopted a dog. This dog, you can tell, was treated like a human. At its owners, the previous owner, it was treated like ate human food, the love and attention, and we had to undo the training of begging for table scraps and begging for human food, but it was so tough. And I remember for a few days she wouldn't eat her dog food, and I thought something was wrong with her. I said, "Oh, something wrong with her stomach." I know we found her outside, so we got to get her checked out. I said, "Let me just see if she eat anything," and so I threw some turkey by her boat, and she ate that turkey in 0.1 milliseconds. I said, "Oh, so you were just tricking me." And the vet was like, "Yeah, she was holding out to see when you was going to give in because she had a feeling some human food was coming." I said, now I know. Now I know. But it's hard to undo training. And these kids were trained. Daniel was trained. It don't say it in text, but just if you think about everything, how they were young men, teenagers, they say between 13 and 17 years old. So let's just take an average of 15 years old. They were that young, taken away from their family, taken away from their friends, and they still showed integrity. And they still were able to be faithful to God. So that means someone in them early trained them in the Word of God. Someone in them early trained them on building a strong foundation in God. And parents and guardians train up a child in the way they should go. That's what it's like, because you never know what your kid is going to go through. But if you train them when it comes to their spirit and their relationship with God, it can withstand that adversity. It'll withstand the temptation that's around them. And you're not going to train them on everything. You're not going to train them on everything they learn in life. My mother did not train me on how to code. She didn't train me on comedy. She didn't train me on software. But what she did train me in was my spirit. What she did train me in was my relationship with God, because what she trained me in would outlast, would withstand any type of temptation that I'm faced with. And that's what about. So you're not going to train them on everything, but on this thing, on their relationship with God and who they are in Christ, that's your responsibility to train them. Train a child in the way they should go. They didn't let their youth be a reason why they couldn't put God first. So what, they were young? They didn't care. So what, they're away from their home? They didn't care. They knew who they were in Christ. They knew who they were in God's eyes. They knew who they were. And they weren't going to allow this situation to stop them from being determined to be faithful to God. They sprinkled some determination on their situation. Daniel was determined. He was determined. And I was just amazed by that, because I couldn't imagine. Because I'll be scared if I was taken away from my family and sent to a strange place and they want to train me and I got to eat the king's food. I think I'll just eat the king's food. I don't want no problems. But they were like, no. Daniel, it said he was determined not to defile himself by eating the food and wine given to them by the king. He asked the chief of staff for permission not to eat these unacceptable foods. Isn't that crazy? How when it came to them capturing Daniel, it didn't say how he reacted. So it's like, Daniel, like, you captured me. I was cool with that. You changed my name. I had nothing to say. But when it's time for them to talk about what they put inside his body, what they feeding him, that's where he drew the line. Because Daniel understood what's being fed to you is important. What's entering your body is important. So he like, you changed my name. You took me away from my home, but I'm not going to eat out this kitchen. That's where he drew the line. The king assigned them a daily ration of food and wine from his own kitchens. But Daniel was like, I don't like what's coming out that kitchen. I don't like what's coming out that kitchen. Because you're not going to, every kitchen you cannot eat out of. You can't. Because when you're faced with situations and it comes to, see, some of us are just picky eaters. It's amazing how some of us are picky eaters physically. Right? Picky eaters physically, but when it comes to what's entering our spirit, entering our mind, we're not so much of a picky eater. Crazy, right? Like some of us are notorious for taking plates back at restaurants. But you don't take any plates back when somebody's trying to come up, when somebody's trying to feed you something that's going to alter your spirit, that's going to alter your thoughts, that's going to change your behavior. You don't want to push that plate back. Because you can't eat out of everyone's kitchen. Some of us know that. That's why you don't eat the company potluck. You like, that's why you're like, I don't know what's going on in that kitchen. I remember I was over, I'm not going to tell you the race of the person, but I was over their house and I was just hanging out and I saw the cat jumped on the kitchen table. I said, I determined in my heart and in my spirit, I'll never eat a crumb out this kitchen. Because you can't eat out of everyone's kitchen. And the king was trying to feed them food and wine out of his own kitchen. And Daniel was like, no, I can't do that, bro. That's where I have to draw the line because that food is unacceptable to me. So when somebody trying to bring you something that goes against your spirit, that goes against your core and your values, like, nah, you could take that back. Nah, that drama, I don't need it. You can take that back. That negativity, I don't need it. You can take that back. That gossip, I don't need it. You can just take that back. That's not what I ordered, boo boo. You can just take that back. I'm not going to feed on what's coming out of that kitchen. Whose criticism is that kitchen? So when somebody ask yourself, whose kitchen is this coming out of? When somebody bring you something, when somebody's trying to give you information, when somebody's trying to give you information that's going to affect how you think, how you believe, how you treat yourself, ask yourself, whose kitchen is this food coming out of? Whose criticism is this food coming out of? Whose advice is this kitchen coming out of? What's feeding your mind? What's feeding your spirit? It's important. It's very important. And Daniel was determined to not defile himself by consuming things, consuming information that was against what he believes in. And we have to be determined to do the same thing. To not consume ourselves with information, to not consume ourselves with activities that goes against what we believe in. One of my favorite quotes is to watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, it becomes your character, and your character becomes your destiny. It all starts in the mind. It all starts with what you're feeding your thoughts, what you're feeding inside your head. And it's very important to watch on whose kitchen is this information coming out of. Can't eat out of everyone's kitchen. And I want to take a brief moment to talk about this one kitchen that we love to feed from. This one kitchen that we just love so much, and that's the kitchen of social media. Some of us consume so much social information from social media that it's changing the way we think, it's changing the way we feel, it's changing the way we behave. That kitchen is constantly feeding us information. Why do you think on Facebook it calls a news feed? Why do you think it's called an Instagram feed? It's constantly feeding us. And if you don't pay attention carefully, you're going to consume, you're going to ingest some things that goes against what you believe in. And it's going to send you down a place that you don't even recognize. So a lot of us are stuck in captivity when it comes to social media. Affecting the way we think, affecting the way we believe and we see ourselves. Y'all don't believe me? Y'all need to watch that documentary, The Social Dilemma, on Netflix. I love that doc. I love tech. I work in tech. So to see that, it opened my eyes. To see how serious it became. To see how serious people are consumed and how social media has changed society. For the good, I see the good, but also the bad. There were some statistics in there that I found very interesting. It said like the higher social media use correlated with self-reported declines in mental health, physical health, and life satisfaction. Some of us are not satisfied with the life that God has blessed us with because we're comparing it to what we see on social media. And next you know, we're determined to be like that person on social media. And we start doing things and believing things, saying things to ourselves that changes the way we think, that alters who we are. And we start doing things just for attention. Like being a comedian, I used to do a lot of social media videos, sketches and whatnot. And likes are important because that's how you get work nowadays. It's not about how funny you are, it's about how many likes you get. And I was like, man, my video is very creative, but it's not getting that many clicks. And then somebody else uploaded just a stupid video doing something crazy, and it goes viral. And I have to catch myself sometimes, like, I started doubting myself, like, dang, am I good? Like, what? But it started changing the way I think, change. I had to be mindful of what I was telling myself. And in this documentary, the creator of the like button even said that the like button was created by Facebook to show love, to spread some positivity. Like, hey, I like that picture. But they didn't realize that they was opening a whole portal where people are now judging their life based on how many likes they get. And it opened their eyes. Like, wow, people are committing suicide because they're not getting enough likes on social media. Yeah. Crazy. And here's another statistic. And this is, they did this statistic based on women because they see that women are really affected by social media because they held to a higher standard of beauty that is unreal pretty much, and it changes the way they think. But U.S. hospital admissions for non-fatal self-harm since 2009, because that's when social media really started rising in 2009, girls between the ages of 15 to 19 in non-fatal self-harm jumped 62%. And in ages 10 to 14, it jumped 189%. Girls are hurting themselves because of social media and what they're seeing on social media. And that's non-fatal harm. Now let's talk about suicide rates in the country. Since the rise of social media, suicide rates for girls 15 to 19 jumped to 70%. And girls 10 to 14 jumped 151%. That's how real it is. And that's why, as parents and as guardians, if you have kids, especially girls, you need to be mindful of what's feeding their thoughts. You have to be mindful of what kitchen they're getting their information from. Because it's really it's killing people. Yeah. It's killing lives. So you have to be mindful of what kitchen. And I know you're trying to be cool and help, like, nah, I don't want to be that parent. No, you need to be that parent. If you're not, your kid gonna be dead. And you're like, how? I didn't know they were dealing with this because you wasn't watching. You wasn't being mindful. People are not being satisfied because of this kitchen that we're feeding from. So I do encourage people to go on social media. Sometimes you got to close that kitchen for a little bit. Just close until you can monitor how much you consume from that kitchen. Because some of us have consumed so much junk from the kitchen of social media that we need to go see Dr. Now. We need to go see Dr. Now and get some surgery done so he can put us on a 1,200 calorie diet. Oh, those people be so mad at Dr. Now. They be so mad. I love it because he gets straight. He's honest. He's brutally honest. You're supposed to lose 80 pounds in 2 months. What happened? You're not taking it seriously. But you consumed so much negative things from that kitchen that you need to close it down. Now, if some of y'all, I can't close that kitchen because I need to be able to stream church service and Bible study and all this stuff. Hey, that's why we also stream it on YouTube, and that's why we got a website. So there's no excuse. So if you find yourself being consumed and you're and being changed by what you view on social media, and you need to take a break for a little bit, you're fine. We still gonna be here on ChristTempleFamilyChurch.com. and our YouTube channel. So there's no excuse. But be mindful of what you're consuming and what you're putting inside of you. And it's easy for us to do it in regards to millennials and older, because millennials, we know how it was before social media and then after. But it's up for us to set the example for Generation Z. Because it's hard to get out the matrix when you were born in the matrix. It's hard to break away from captivity when you were born in it. That's all you know. And it's up for us to set the example. Need to be determined to not allow what's feeding you from the wrong kitchen affect how you think. You can see the food, but you don't have to consume it. Daniel was around the food, but he was determined not to consume it because he knew it went against what he believed in. In his messed up situation, he was determined. In this season of his life, of being taken away from his home, renamed, and around temptation, he was determined. He sprinkled some determination on his situation and believed that God was going to see him through. And God did. When you have a determined spirit, you're trusting that God is going to work this out for you. And God did. His determination unlocked God's favor because God showed him favor. Look, in the text, now God had given the chief of staff both respect and affection for Daniel. Wait a minute, you mean the chief of staff? The same one that captured him? The chief of staff, the same one that renamed him? God gave him favor? But even though God gave him favor in the chief of staff's eyes, the chief of staff was scared. He said, I am afraid of my lord the king. And then he goes on to say, I am afraid the king will have me beheaded. But guess how determined Daniel was? He didn't let that stop him. He was determined not to eat the food and drink the wine from this kitchen. So even though the chief of staff said no, he went who reported to the chief of staff, which is strange. It's very strange. Normally when you want to tell on somebody, or you go to their higher up, you're like, I gotta talk to the manager. You don't say, let me talk to who reports to you. You don't really do it, but that's what he did. Daniel went to the attendant who had been appointed by the chief of staff and said, please test us for 10 days on a diet of vegetables and water. And at the end of 10 days, see how we look compared to the other young men who are eating the king's food. And at the end of the 10 days, verse 15, Daniel and his 3 friends looked healthier and better nourished than a young man who had been eating the food assigned by the king. All that happened because Daniel was determined. Daniel did not give up in this situation. Even though Daniel was around temptation, he still stayed true to himself. So in life, when you're dealing with a situation when everybody around you is doing wrong and you want to do right, just sprinkle some determination on that situation. When you're in a season of your life when it feels like it's just easier to just go with the crowd, just stay true to yourself. Just stay true. Be determined not to defile yourself with the food and the wine from the king's kitchen. Be determined to, no matter what type of resistance you're facing in your life, to keep moving forward. Develop a determined spirit that no matter what trial, no matter what tribulation, no matter what pitfall you fall into, you're going to get out. No matter how many times you fall down, you're going to get back up. No matter how many times somebody says no on a vision that God blessed you with, you're going to make it happen because God is on your side. We serve a God that no matter what situation you're in, He's going to be right there with you. No matter what situation you're in, He's going to be walking with you side by side. He did not bring you this far to leave you. God is for you. And you need to be determined to know that no matter what you're dealing with, you can get through. No matter what you're dealing with, stay strong and be determined. Remember, a little dab would do you. A sprinkle of determination. God bless you. God keep you. Thank you.